Ronald Lee White, BAJD. I operate a paralegal business, and the reason that I'm presenting this video to you is to try to help the people who are facing foreclosure or who have been foreclosed and perhaps even evicted from their former home. And I just want to let you know that you do have recourse, legal recourse against the bank, the service lender that evicted you from your property and foreclosed your property. Now, there are two ways of doing a foreclosure. There is what they call a judicial foreclosure, which is done by a judge inside of a courtroom. And then there is a non-judicial foreclosure, which is done by a trustee on the steps of the courthouse. And either way, you face eviction from your property. And I just want to let you know that you can fight this in court by bringing a lawsuit against your service lender for breach of contract, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, and other claims. And you can put in place an injunction to prevent eviction until such time as your litigation comes to a conclusion. And I've done this with several clients of mine, most notably 10C45 is the case number in the Circuit Court of Berkeley County, West Virginia. And this gentleman was foreclosed 2 years ago. It's been 3 years since he last made a house note, but he is still living in the property, and his case is in litigation at the level of the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals. And he's still living in the house and cannot be evicted until his case is over. And of course, should he prevail, he will never be evicted, and he will also be able to collect damages from his bank, the notorious HSBC Bank, which I'm sure many of you will be familiar with. So my contact information is Ronald Lee, WHT661 at Gmail, Ronald L. WHITE at yahoo.com, Ronald Lee, WHT 1953 at gmail.com, L Stoic1 at AOL.com, and WH Ronald at AOL.com. My telephone number is 334-355-1077 or 334-316-0647. My mailing address, snail mail, is P.O. Box 722, Eufaula, Alabama 36072, 0722, or alternatively, P.O. Box 161, 979, Atlanta, GA 1979. I'm going to show you my credentials and my qualifications to help you do this. Now, you will be proceeding pro se in court should you decide to pursue your remedies in a court of law. The document up to the top there is a photocopy of my law degree from St. Louis University. I graduated in January of 1998 with a Juris Doctoris degree, and the document below is my BA degree from Morehouse College, and I graduated from there May 23rd of 1972. And I'm going to walk away from that bulletin board right there and let you see me, because I always like to look at a person in the face. So this is the man that you're talking to, and I have a paralegal business, as I said, and I'm willing to help you to stay in your home and to try to seek some damages for fraud and etc. from your lender, in which case you would have enough money to pay off your mortgage and should have additional funds to put in the bank, perhaps to open up a business or to go back to school, whatever your pleasure. But I just want to tell you how this process works. Now I'm going to take my face out of the picture and resume talking to you about what your options are. Now, this is my home, which I inherited from my parents in 2003 when they both passed away. And I inherited also two additional houses, two rental houses, one of which I've converted into an office for my paralegal business. And fortunately for me, I have not faced any foreclosure. because I didn't have a mortgage. These houses were free and clear when I inherited them. However, with the state of the economy, it's quite likely that I would have been foreclosed if I had had a mortgage, because I was working for General Motors up until 2003, at which time I left the company and opened up a business of my own, and that business went belly up, and so I am now just working to try to help people like you stay in your home. Now, I'm going to walk down to a couple of properties a couple of blocks from here, and I'm just going to continue talking to you about your options, your legal options, to stay in your home. Now, once this injunction is in place, then you don't have to worry about being evicted until the litigation is over. In the meantime, you can go on living in the house, maintaining the insurance, and of course keeping the property taxes paid as though no foreclosure had ever occurred. And of course, once you file your lawsuit naming all of your claims, primarily breach of contract, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, etc., the bank attorneys will of course respond and deny all of those claims. And they probably will write a memorandum of law trying to get your lawsuit, your complaint, dismissed. Once they do that, then of course you get to write a memorandum of law opposing that motion to dismiss. And of course you'll need to cite cases that are supportive of your position, and that's where I come in. Now you can either do that legal research and do your own analysis and write your own memorandum of law, or I will do it for you. I'm trained to do that, and I'm in the process of building a staff of experienced paralegals to assist me with the volume of cases that I expect to be receiving in the next few weeks. And most of those paralegals will be folks who have JD degrees. And of course I will give them a template of the strategy, the legal strategy in the cases that are most salient and most appropriate to your circumstances. And I'm sure we will be able to prevail to at least get your case in front of a jury. And of course, you will be proceeding pro se. And what that means is you will be self-representing, speaking for yourself in court. But of course, we will teach you everything you need to know and to say in a court of law. And we will do the paperwork for you. Now, the hourly rate for this business is $125 an hour with a $1,000 retainer to get started. And for that $1,000, you will get the complaint drafted and an injunction drafted so you can stay in the house. And of course, you will be in the house until your litigation is over, which could take several years. For it to even come to trial, it could take several years. However, you get to remain in possession of the house, and that's critical, because once you've been evicted from the house, then all you can seek is damages. But if it is important to you to retain possession of the house, you really like the house, then the injunction is the best way to stay there until such time as the litigation comes to a conclusion. This is a strategy that I have not seen too many people approach to try to stay in their homes. Most of the attempts to try to fight it in court has been based on robo-signings that people who were not even bank employees were doing and presenting these documents to the court as legitimate and without fraud. Now, some of the courts have invalidated those documents that were robo-signed by non-bank employees, but that's something that can be quickly remedied, because all they have to do is then go back to court again with new documents actually signed by bank employees, and then go forward with the foreclosure and subsequent eviction. I think it's a much better strategy to challenge the foreclosure based on contract law and based on fraud law, in which case it's pretty easy to prove that fraud has been committed against you. First of all, in soliciting your business in the first place to get you to take a mortgage with a particular bank, all of them will offer you options in case you run into difficulty making payments, such as losing your job. And in this down economy, with unemployment hovering around 10%, 20% if you count the people who are no longer looking, almost depression levels of unemployment, it's not your fault that your company laid you off, or that your plant closed, or that the retailer or whatever that you were working for went out of business. In a down economy, there will be a lot of casualties, and you're part of that. You are a casualty, and your bank has promised to give you some options when you run into that situation where you've lost your job. And then once you lose the job, then they turn their back on you and throw you under the bus, under the train, in the fire, however you want to phrase it. And that's not really fair to you, especially since they made these promises to you. Now, when they tell you that we will help you out in case you lose your job, that's what they call a unilateral contract, which is separate from the written document. Nowhere in the written document will it say that we will help you in case you lose your job. What they will have done with that, they will have either given you a brochure, something saying that, they would do this for you in case you run into difficulty. By the way, this is the lake that's about 2 blocks from my house, and it's very scenic, and I'm going to proceed on to the foreclosed properties, or at least properties that are up for sale. I can't say that they're all foreclosed, but I just wanted to include this view in the video. But getting back to the foreclosure issue, that separate promise, whether it be in a brochure or maybe the envelope that your mortgage contract itself is enclosed, is a unilateral contract. And that was one of the enticements for you to take out a mortgage contract with this particular service lender. And that's called a unilateral contract. It's sort of like, okay, I'll pay $1,000 to anybody who will take my dog to walk 1 mile and back. And that is an offer that's open to everybody and anybody. And the first person that does it is the person who earns $1,000. And so if you walk my dog a mile out and a mile back, then I owe you $1,000. And then if I say I'm not going to pay you, I have breached a unilateral contract. Well, the same principle applies when these service lenders tell you that they will assist you either with a loan modification, a loan restructuring, and other options to help you avert foreclosure. Now, HSBC in particular has been notorious for refusing to do any loan modifications, and a loan restructure is out of the question, not even on the table for that particular lender. And so, consequently, they are being sued by not only borrowers, but also by the federal government, because they've made loans that should have never been made in the first place. No doc loans, and what that means is there was no documentation of income. Liar loans. Washington Mutual made liar loans, where they knew that the applicant, the borrower, was lying about their income, or even if the borrower told the truth, they told them to lie and inflate their income. Countrywide did the same thing. Now Countrywide is part of Bank of America, and these were mortgage creators that were notorious for fraud. So now the federal government is suing the 70 largest banks in the country for making those loans and then dumping all of that garbage into Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. They want their money back. And I understand that some banks have already started settling with the government. So if they committed fraud against the federal government and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and other mortgage agencies inside the federal government, then that means they've committed fraud against you also, because they were making loans to you that they knew you would never be able to pay, especially these adjustable rate mortgages, which reset every 2 or 3 years, or 2 or 3 years after the loan is originated, sometimes causing the payments to triple. Your income is not going to triple in 3 years, so how are you going to pay a house note that's going to triple in 3 years? That's fraud on its face. So you have a compelling case for fraud and certainly breach of contract. So trust me, I want millions of you to file these lawsuits pro se, mostly in federal court, and that will give you your best chance to prevail in federal court, because in the state courts, a lot of the judges are corrupt, and especially the ones who have to get elected every 4 or 6 years, because that means that they need campaign contributions, and guess where those campaign contributions are going to come from? You get it, banks and other large corporations, and they won't give it to the candidate, the judge candidate directly. They'll give the money to the law firm that's representing them, and then they will make the contribution. Because a judge is not supposed to make a ruling on a case involving a direct contributor to their political campaign fund. But if the lawyers give it to them, that's a different story. It's just a conduit to legalize bribery and corruption.